prototypical 3-and-D wing that you want in today's NBA. Now think about what the Rockets have done this offseason. They've replaced Dillon Brooks with a better player in Dorian Finney-Smith. They've replaced Jalen Green with a guy named Kevin Durant. Reed Shepherd was a number 3 overall pick last year, and he couldn't even get in the rotation. They're so deep. They're able to trade Kevin Durant without, and this is the key, without compromising depth. We just talked about how difficult it is to operate on a top-heavy roster. They didn't compromise any depth. They keep their defense in place with Amen Thompson, who might be already the best perimeter defender in the league. They keep Tari Eason. They keep Jabari Smith. And now they bring in another defender in Dorian Finney-Smith. Kevin Durant is outfitted here. He has the offensive support in Şengün. He has the defensive support all over the place. They have the rebounding set with Steven Adams. Fred VanVleet is still the organizational guy, the guy that gets the offense going. He plays good ball pressure defense. The Rockets, right now, the Grizzlies and the Rockets are doing very well. And this is a loss, too, for the Lakers. We're talking about, is LeBron going to be around with the Lakers? To lose Dorian Finney-Smith, let's say they make it official and they get Ayton. You're worse. If we didn't think they were good enough last year, you're worse. If you swap out Finney-Smith for Ayton, you're worse. So, and LeBron just had the quote, he wants a realistic, he said that, I want a realistic chance to win. I got news for you. You swap out Finney-Smith for Ayton, you got worse.
Yeah, Finney-Smith is a great pickup. And to Brad's point, the thing that's most impressive about what the Houston Rockets are doing and have been doing is that they haven't had to compromise what made them so good last season. One of the reasons why I was very apprehensive about Kevin Durant going to the Rockets and the Rockets even in negotiating with the Phoenix Suns was because I said, how much is it going to require to get Kevin Durant? Yes, he's of a particular age. Yes, he's had substantial injury history, but it's still Kevin Durant. And when he's healthy, he's top 10 in the league. So if you have to blow up your entire team to get him, that is counterproductive for what the Houston Rockets are building and what they have built. And that is a young team that has so much promise. And the fact that they were able to get a KD caliber player, and not a KD caliber player, but Kevin Durant himself, with just what they were able to give with Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks and the pick, was absolutely insane to me. And then you add a player like Finney-Smith, who everything Brad said is spot on. This is a Houston Rockets team. Our very own Tim Doyle has been saying that he is high on the Houston Rockets to not only come out the West, but to win the whole thing. And I have to say, I may not be on the championship train with him just yet, but when we talk about the Western Conference, there's a new sheriff in town, and if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, this is your #1 competition.
Look out, Thunder. Look out West, look out NBA. The Houston Rockets making big moves today. Dorian Finney-Smith agreeing to a 4-year, $53 million deal to lead them for some new homes, or maybe running it back with their original teams. Let's start there with the big man in Turner. Played a big role. We already know that. He was a shot and rim protector for the Pacers on to that Game 7, or Game 6, I should say, there with OKC. Your thoughts on maybe him returning back to Indy or maybe somewhere else?
Yeah, he's going to come back to Indy. I mean, he's been linked, Brandon, to moving on from Indianapolis for the last 10 years. He's been in the NBA that long, for that long. Everybody's been talking about, well, when are they going to move on from Myles Turner? And always the Lakers are mentioned as a destination. Obviously, the Lakers need a center. But the Pacers understand how valuable Myles Turner is to them as a rim protector and a three-point shooter. His last deal was 2 for $40 million. Naz Reid just got 5 for $125. I think that's probably the ballpark that Myles Turner is seeking here. Something maybe even slightly increase from that, because he was a critical piece of this Pacers team. And without Tyrese Halliburton next year, they're going to need even more from Myles Turner. So I don't anticipate him going anywhere.
The longest tenure Pacer, and that will not change there, according to our John Gonzalez. When it comes to Jonathan Kaminga, this is a guy that we've said for years that he can be a perennial all-star, a scoring champ, but we just never saw that in Golden State, given, of course, their roster. Will this be the year he moves on, or is he going to run it back here?
Yeah, this one's more interesting, right? Because he's a restricted free agent. He was in and out of the rotation for Steve Kerr. They did this 2 timelines thing in Golden State where they tried to develop Jonathan Kaminga at the same time as trying to win a championship. That was an utter disaster. Once they got Jimmy Butler, he fell out of the rotation because Steve Kerr rightly said, hey, look, I don't love the spacing with Jimmy Butler on the floor alongside Draymond Green, alongside Jonathan Kaminga, which meant that Jonathan Kaminga's minutes were limited. And then when Steph got hurt during the postseason, they needed Jonathan Kaminga to step forward and he showed some flashes. But I think this is a situation that's probably a sign and trade. Maybe he ends up with the Heat. The Bulls are an interesting destination because they've got Nikeil Vucevic on the books for reasons surpassing understanding, and the Golden State Warriors obviously are looking for a center. Quentin Post, thank you for your help. You'd be much better served coming off the bench rather than having starters minutes, so maybe there's something to work out there. But I'd be really surprised if Jonathan Kaminga remains on this roster moving forward.
I feel like we've seen him for 6 years. He's only 22, so he has a whole career, maybe 10 or 12 years, based on what we've seen so far. Elsewhere in Chicago, Josh Giddy, he had a little bit in Chicago where the last 2 months or so, we really saw him kind of kick it up a gear. He's also a restricted free agent, but thoughts on his future?
Yeah, Josh Giddy, like the Bulls in general, Brandon, were kind of fun over the last 2 months. I have a friend who's a Bulls fan, and I was asking him about it, and I was saying, like, I'm still kind of not sold on their roster building, and he was like, who cares? They're fun to watch finally. Josh Giddy is a part of that. Now, he looked good alongside Kobe White. He looked good alongside Modest Buzelis, but he's looking for something like 5 for $150 million. Do you really want to commit that much to Josh Giddy? Now, this is the Bulls. They've made a lot of really curious decisions, up to and including trading Alex Caruso straight up to Oklahoma City in exchange for Josh Giddy and not getting any picks back. They just recently traded Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro and didn't get any picks back. They signed Patrick Williams to a deal for 5 for $90 million. I still noodling over that one doesn't make any sense. And as I mentioned, Nikola Vucevic remains on the team. I don't understand that as well. So Josh Giddy, I don't anticipate that he's going to go anywhere. He's found a home in Chicago. It's kind of like a perfect marriage between, he's fine, I guess, and a team that just absolutely loves him and looks at things, I think, a little bit differently than a lot of organizations in the NBA do.
Yeah, now Alonzo gone, I guess, more minutes, more opportunities there. We will see in Chicago. Over in Minnesota, Nikeil Alexander-Walker, we talked about in the last segment. Look, he was a household name during the postseason. Maybe the bad news is that Randall and Reed will be getting the bag, but safe to say he's a 3-and-D guy that will be in high demand.
Oh, high demand for sure, Brandon. He's coming off his best season in his career. He's 27 years old. He was a bench star for the Wolves. He was awesome during the playoffs when they made their second straight Western Conference Finals. The problem for the Wolves, they'd love to have him back, is they're really cap-strapped here. They ended up coming into this offseason looking at a pick 2 of 3 situation. Well, they picked Nas, who they gave 5 for $125, and Julius Randle, who they gave 3-year extension for $100 million with a player option. That leaves Nikeil Alexander as the odd man out. But it looks like he's been rumored to end up with the Atlanta Hawks, which is a really good landing spot for him, Brandon. All of a sudden, with Onsi Saleh, the new general manager in Atlanta, the Hawks, who had been a really poorly run organization, all of a sudden are starting to look like a really well-run organization. They land Kristaps Porzingis. They steal a draft pick from the Pelicans. I don't even know what Joe Dumars is doing down in New Orleans. And now all of a sudden, Nikeil Alexander-Walker could be a great get for them. Slide him right into that non-taxpayer mid-level exception. And now the Hawks could be one of those plucky teams in the Eastern Conference that's like super up for grabs right now. Obviously, the Wolves would love to have Nikeil Alexander back, but if I'm NAW, man, I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah, say bye-bye. He's gone. He's gone. He's going to find a new home. Somebody that I guess is going to find a home at some point, DeAndre Ayton finalizing that buyout with Portland. I'm going to be honest, I did not watch Portland that much this season, but then again, looking at some of the highlights, I don't remember much of what he did since he was in Phoenix, but he did average a double-double in his first 7 seasons in the NBA. But what's his market realistically?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of those guys. There's a ton of teams looking for centers, and we'll start with the Lakers, who I think he would be a really good destination for, and I mentioned the Golden State Warriors, but he's going to be in that group along with Brook Lopez, Clint Capella, Al Horford, as an in-demand, either starting or, complimentary big. I think with the Lakers, if he ends up there, he would obviously be a starter. But yes, Portland had done a number of curious things, Brandon. You mentioned what they were doing last year. I was lobbying for them to tank. They decided not to. They're kind of plucky and fun, and they had this like young core, but obviously DeAndre Ayton didn't fit into that because they've got Donovan Kling and they had Robert Williams. Oh, by the way, they also drafted, everybody calls him Chinese Joker, Yang Hansen. There just wasn't room for DeAndre Ayton. I was clamoring for them to move on for him sooner than later. Turned out to be later. We'll see where he washes up, but I think that he could be a reclamation project, especially if he ends up in LA.
Meanwhile, his former teammate in Phoenix, CP3, he's now the man out in San Antonio because they're 3 deep after what we saw from the draft, and also last year acquiring De'Aaron Fox when it comes to PGs. Like, he's 40 years of age, but his value is more of that mentor role at this point of his career. Where can you see him heading?
Yeah, these last few stops, I keep waiting for Chris Paul to call it a career, Brandon, but he's been super useful, right? He served that mentor role when he was in Oklahoma City. He did it again in San Antonio, but San Antonio, obviously, the backcourt got super crowded. They have De'Aaron Fox now. They had the Rookie of the Year in Stephon Castle. They just drafted Dylan Harper. He's the on-mat out. But at 40 years old, he played all 82 games last year, Brandon, and averaged 28 minutes a game. So he's rumored to be reuniting with either the Suns or the Clippers. I think the Clippers is the better destination for him and also for the team. He could back up James Harden. Instead of playing 28 minutes a game, you'd be looking at 15 to 20 minutes a game of Chris Paul, who is one of the smartest players in NBA history. He just knows the way that he can sort of chess piece things around the board and also serve as a mentor, and you don't have to worry about him making mistakes on a team that's going to have designs about trying to make the postseason and do something once they get there in a loaded Western Conference. I think he'd be a great fit for the Clippers or really wherever he ends up. It's a remarkable career. It's still going, Brandon.
He's 40 years old, 82 games. He's a vegan. I'm just putting it out there. Everybody knows.